Welcome to Civics, everyone. This is Chapter 1, Sections 1 and 2, where we discuss citizenship. I'll just say, because this is our first section and chapter, that this class is probably the most important class, if not the most important class that you'll have in your high school career, just because it will literally apply to your everyday life, starting, moving forward, especially when you become an adult, over 18 years old. So, yeah, so um, just very, very relevant information in civics to your day-to-day life. So, citizenship. Well, first, let's just discuss what civics is. It's the study of the rights and duties of citizens. Uh, um, who is a citizen? It's a person with a certain right or duties under a government. You know, how to be a U.S. citizen, how to be someone that belongs to the United States and calls it home. And in the United States also calls them, this is one of ours, is the easiest way is to be born on U.S. soil. Um, another way is being born outside the United States, but one parent is a U.S. citizen. So if you're born in Germany and your dad is a U.S. citizen, but your mom is not, you are still considered a U.S. citizen even though you weren't born here. Um, and then what we'll be discussing in detail in this section is if you're a naturalized citizen, a person who has gone through the process of becoming a citizen. And then you're also a citizen if you're less than 18 years old and your parents became naturalized citizen, that your parents went through the process. All right, so if you're an alien, you're not from outer space or anything like that. You're not like ET. You are a person who is a citizen of a country, but is living in another country. So, if you're a citizen of France and you're living in the United States on like a work visa or for work, uh, you are considered an alien to the United States. Uh, Aliens do have rights and duties in the United States, but they cannot vote in our elections, in the United States elections, and cannot run for public office. So if you're like a person from France, your citizenship is in France, and you're living in the United States, you cannot vote or become a senator or a mayor, any kind of public office in the United States. Um, if a if an alien wants, if you're living over here and you're like, hey, I really like the United States, I would like to become a citizen of the United States, then you have to go through the naturalization process. And so the naturalization process, the first step is that you have to apply for U.S. citizenship. Through the Citizenship and Immigration Services. Must be 18 years or older. You have to be legal residents in the United States. Not to get into too much, but a legal resident in the United States is that you are allowed to come into the United States and work here, usually through a work visa or a green card. People that would not be allowed to apply for it is for citizenship if you just came into the United States illegally. So if you're living in Canada and you just slip into the United States and slip across the border with no documentation, not going through customs or anything like that, you would not be able to go through the naturalization process. But you have to have lived here for 5 years. You have to have the ability to read, write, and speak English. I know the joke is that we speak American here in the United States. It's actually the English language, and even though it's not like the United States doesn't have an official language. Pretty much everything is in English. It's based off the English language, so you do have to have the ability to read, write, and speak English. You have to be loyal to the principles of the United States Constitution. You have to agree with the United States Constitution, and pretty much our Constitution is our laws, so that's pretty important. Must have sufficient knowledge of U.S. history, and really you have to take a citizenship test. And U.S. history and government that has U.S. history and government questions, civics questions, like we'll be discovering. So hopefully, at the end of this course, you would be able to pass a citizenship test no problem. Here's just some examples of the questions on a citizenship test. What is the capital of the United States? Um, and then some geography questions, and then rule of law. And so, I would be willing to bet that most American citizens wouldn't be able to pass one of these tests. There are some funny videos on YouTube and whatnot, man on the street questions talking about like asking average Americans, like who's the first president and everything. And it's scary how little people know about American history. But after this class, you guys will all be fine, be able to pass this test. All right, citizenship. Uh, takes on so once you become a naturalized citizen, you have to take an oath of loyalty to the United States. You see these people here standing there, raising their right hand, swearing an oath that you will be loyal to the United States. You have all the rights and duties of natural born citizen. Like you are, even though you weren't born here, you become naturalized, you are a United States citizen. The only thing you can't do is become president or vice president. You have to be born on U.S. soil to be president. All right. Unfortunately, you can lose your citizenship. If you swear an oath to another country, that means that you're not a part of this country anymore, so you'd lose your citizenship. Um, you know, Swearing an oath to another country is like if you went over to Russia and you started working with their government, and become a part of their military or something like that. Like that's definitely because you have to swear an oath to like Russia, let's say, and to join their military, you would lose your U.S. citizenship. Um, the biggest way is to commit treason, which is the crime of betraying one's country, and the biggest way is to try to attempt to overthrow the government. Um, you know, this has happened before in this sign here. His name was John Brown. This was before the Civil War. He tried to start a slave rebellion in the United States and free slaves and giving them weapons to rebel against their masters. And they he was eventually hung and for his actions. But he was actually a hero in the United States. But something like that, like trying to start a rebellion in the United States, is definitely an act of treason. All right, your rights as a citizen. It's your legal, social, and ethical principles of freedom. Those are your rights. That's what it's based on. Some of your rights as a U.S. citizen, you have the right to vote. And going on the vote thing, like I think as Americans, we take that for granted a lot. Is that our right? We take for granted our right to vote. If you see this lady right here, this purple finger, they were very proud of this purple finger because they were voting. That was how they voted, and this is actually in Iraq. So they hadn't had free elections in Iraq for a very long time, and they were finally allowed to elect their own leaders, and they were so proud of that. So we really take that for granted in the United States to be able to choose our own leaders because many places around the world you do not. Um, you can hold elected office, you can become senator, representative, you can say and think in speech and writing without without the government, that's free speech. You're free to practice your religion, and you have fair trials. So if you get convicted of a crime, it's not just one person dealing out justice. You have a trial of your peers to decide whether you're guilty or not. Um, our, United States rights are based on, freedom, equality, and justice. Um, you know, so I like to put this statue here. This is usually the statue. This is, statue of, uh, there's Lady Liberty, and then like this statue of Justice is what she usually looks like. She's blind because justice is supposed to be blind. It's not supposed to discriminate when dealing out punishments and sentencing. Um, and it's also like the scales, like weighing you know, the the evidence and everything like that. So just having fair justice, and then so who protects these rights that we have is, well, the U.S. Constitution and laws and the courts. So our duties as citizens is really more our moral and legal obligations to fulfill for the country. Some of our duties is to obey the laws. If you're going to be a citizen, in swearing an oath to the United States, you agree to obey all of the United States laws. No citizen is above the law as well. It's like, so, as a citizen, you can become president. Even the president is not above the law. They can still go to jail and everything like that. Some of your duties, this is some, now these, is to defend the nation. This still occurs when you turn 18. You have to register for selective service. That doesn't mean that you're joining the military, but this just means that if there was ever a draft, meaning that if we went to a war that we need a lot of soldiers, United States could potentially force you into the military to defend our nation. So that is still a thing. It hasn't happened since Vietnam War, though. And also to serve on a jury. Citizens do have the right to a fair trial, like we said, and will be judged upon a jury of their peers. So there's not just one person dealing out justice. You have a fair trial. Everything is supposed to be fair and equal, and to give you the best chance to defend yourself if you're ever sued or convicted of a crime. All right, part of the duties that one of the duties that Americans hate is paying taxes. There's the old saying, there's only two things you have to do in life. It's, die and pay taxes. So, that's one of those things that you can't really escape. If you buy anything in a store, you're paying tax on it. So, it just, the taxes are everywhere. But we must pay them, to the state and to the local, which would be if you lived in, let's say, the, what, like North Fayette is where, you know, Parkway is located. Like that's the local government, and then it would go in like state, it's Pennsylvania, and then federal is like the national government, and the United States national government to ensure that we have all these different services that we need. Now we don't like paying taxes, but we sure do like what they provide: police, schools, roads, social security, unemployment. Like that money doesn't come out from nowhere. Tax money is what pays for all that. So even the laptop that you're using now, if it was provided by the school, like that was paid for by taxes. Um, so attending school. So like even though you're under 18, if you're under 18, you do have duties. One is to attend school. Um, you know, Society really depends on students going to school because it it really helps them, helps people to prepare to be productive members of society. If we didn't have schools, the United States would never advance in technology or like healthcare, just everything. We just wouldn't advance. Um, so the United States makes sure that they provide knowledge to students, ensure that the U.S. has a successful future, and that we just keep on improving. Public school attendance is required, and the act of not attending is called truancy. So that is actually, truancy is something that is very important to avoid, and it's very serious. because your parents will be fined if you do not go to school. So it's important that you go to school. So the United States government wants everybody in the schools learning, improving, because really, students today really are the future. All right, responsibilities. Um, it's a little different. It's a voluntary act. It's something like duties you pretty much have to do. Responsibilities is that you should do, but you don't have to do it. It's for the greater good. Um, so one of the things is you have the right to vote, but you don't have to vote. Um, no one can force you to vote and go to the polls, like physically do it. Um, it's a responsibility. Like, you should vote. You should have your voice heard. This is how the United States citizens have their voice heard: is that they vote for policies and people that they choose to represent themselves. Um, so it's just very important that they do that. Without people, fulfilling their responsibility to vote, it just wouldn't, be as free of a country as we have. Holding public office. Uh, not that a high percentage of us that have to hold some kind of public office, but it's important that we have plenty of people that do. There's just so many different public offices out there, like mayor, senator, representative, all the way up to president. These roles have to be filled in order for our government to work. So it's just and then the other side of it is that we have to have a lot of people try to run for office, because it allows us to have more candidates to vote from. So we have a good array of people that we can kind of choose from that best matches our values. If we only have one candidate all the time, well, that's not really, a free election, because you're only stuck with that one candidate and really don't have any freedom of choice to choose who represents you. So it's important that we have people that stand up and say, like, hey, I believe in this, vote for me if you believe in this too. And we got to have to have many people to do that. Um, Even just participation in election campaigns. You can, uh, it's just important that your voice is heard. And if you do like a candidate, try to support them as much as you can, and try to get that's how you get your voice heard even more. Um, this next part of the next responsibility of influencing the government is very important, in that it's very relevant to today. Uh, there's even if you're not running for public office directly, um, or even when it's not time to vote on issues, you can still influence the government by, petitions, writing letters, speaking at city councils. But this is very relevant today, especially with the whole Black Lives Matters movement. Is that like such as NBA players, they're taking a stand, trying to get their voice heard to influence the government for a cause. This is how you take action. The games were canceled for a couple of days. Like, that takes notice. It's like government has to take notice of that. Like, that's getting your voice heard. So that's an excellent way of how you can influence your government just as a regular citizen. Okay, that's it for section 1 and 2. Next we'll be moving into the types of governments that we have.